All right, we are on to our next assignment. And though it's only assignment 3, we're almost halfway through the semester. We're only a couple weeks from the midterm. So what's nice about assignment 3 is it's going to draw on all of the knowledge, all of the skills, all of the things we've practiced up until this point. And you're going to be creating an animation, but you're not allowed to create an animation from all new elements. You need to use at least one element that you've already created for the class. So to explain this, actually I'll go to instead of shortcutting to the assignment, I'll go to the unit module. So we are going to look at Unit 7. The type of animation we're going to be doing is what's called a graphic interchange format animation. It's the earliest type of digital image. The first ones are actually in the 50s. It was a military kind of sonar-created image for screens. But what's great about GIF animations, you're actually seeing a bunch of GIF animations right here with all of these animated buttons. A GIF animation can be played within a browser without any extra software. You don't need Flash to run it. You don't need QuickTime. You don't need any movie player. And they can also be played on a loop. And it's because it's a very efficient way to animate. But the principles of animation are the same whether you're doing it in 4K at 60 frames per second, or whether you're doing it for feature films, hand-drawn at 24 frames per second, or whether you're doing it as a GIF at maybe even only like 6 frames per second. What we are going to do with our animation is we are going to showcase a transformation. So not only are we going to create an original GIF animation that uses at least one aspect we've already created. So that could be from exercise 1, your line art jumble. That can be from exercise 2, your vector shape emoji, which is what this student used. It can be from exercise or assignment 1, your landscape. You can animate a transformation within your landscape. Or assignment 2, your creature. Or you can combine all of them, right? That's what we're going to be doing. What is a transformation? A transformation is a change of state from beginning, middle to end. So certain things between these frames that give the illusion of movement, right? And then when they're played in sequence, shows movement. Some of these things transform and some don't. So what transforms? The nose transforms. It changes from beginning, middle to end. You guys see that? Does the hat transform? No, the hat just moves. Moving is different than transforming. Does the tongue transform? Some of you are nodding yes, but actually the tongue just gets revealed, right? If the tongue was pink at the beginning and green by the end, that would be a transformation. So we're deciphering between what are called movement tests and transformations in animation. We need to have some aspect of our animation that actually transforms, changes state. All right, there's a lot to it. We're going to be using the same sort of programs like Adobe Photoshop or Photopea to create this, but we're going to be creating multiple frames that then become the animation. And there's no question of the day to go with this. There's just the fullest possible understanding of organizing layers and pixels and assets in order to create this. So we do have a little bit longer because it is complex. There are 3 requirements you need to post. The first is what's called a rough storyboard sketch. And I'm asking all of you to do this by next class, right? So you don't overthink it too much. You're going to do 9 squares. It can be rough in your sketchbook, but I want only 9 frames. And in those 9 frames, you're going to show the transformation. So in this one, the first frame, it establishes the setting. It's a desert. And then the next frame, it introduces the character who's like this crab-like creature that comes out of a rock, reveals the character. And then the action is that the character kind of bursts out of its shell and walks to the side. So the transformation here is the creature like camouflaged as a rock that rolls in and then transforms into the creature, right? Like a transformer. Then there's just a movement. It walks and then it transforms back into a rock, and then it all resets for the start. Now, you might change your mind a little bit as you're animating. Like this, I was going to have it kind of roll back into place, but instead I just did a panning camera move, and then it restarts by rolling in. The second component is the finished GIF animation. There's no time length requirement for this, but it's going to be a minimum of 9 frames and more likely more like 50 frames to try to make it smooth. But as long as you have 9 frames and it showcases a transformation, you can meet the requirements. And then the third component is what's called a refined storyboard. This would be like if you were to print it as, for a print portfolio as a comic, you pick the 9 best frames that tell the story. All right. Here we see this past student example. They wanted to use their emoji that they created, and they wanted to start with a very generic kind of blank-faced emoji and then drop these things down. And again, the only thing that really, there's actually 2 transformations that are happening. They're pretty subtle. You have a transformation of the nose and you have a transformation of the eyes. The eyes change to little hearts blinking. The setting does change. So I would also say there's a transformation in the setting from being just green confetti raining down to those hearts appearing and then disappearing. But the other things are simply moving. And it can be really tough to have a bunch of elements like this all moving believably together. This one is a creature in a setting, right? And then the creature freezes, gets kind of turned to ice because it gets really cold, and then thaws out. So what's the transformation? Well, there's 2 transformations there. Transformation of the creature being turned to ice and then thawing out, right? And then also a transformation of the setting. Because you don't actually need a character for this. The weather of your setting could be the character, right? And you could have a big storm come in and really change your setting and then clear out, right? That would be a transformation as well. And we can see a lot of other examples in the class Imgur of projects that students really liked and made as their parts of their final portfolio. So like this one. This one is a nice example. Oh, where is it? Where's the animation? Huh. This one used a lot more than 9 frames, but it could have been done in 9 frames as well. It's just often you use more than 9 frames to kind of do what are called in-betweens and clean up your keyframes. This one transforms the setting. I think this is an older format. It's not as well supported as the newer ones. So these obviously use a creature and the backgrounds. The other ones are using their emojis. Oh, it's so sad to lose all of those old GIFs. Must be a change. And then these are some past instructor examples, right? Just really basic. Let's see if there's one that actually has a GIF that's supported. Because Imgur must have stopped supporting this older form of GIF, or GIFs that are over a certain number of frames. All right. So let's get to the project. So what am I asking you to do for next class? You have to first decide on what asset you've already created in the class you want to use for your animation. And you can use a combination of them. And I actually haven't given it any thought, but we just did the proving ground, and I have the dodo and I have the setting, and so it would make sense to maybe do something with that, right? So now I'm going to open up my sketchbook. Come on. And I'll just create it pretty low res. Just do a quick sketch. And what are you going to draw? You're going to draw 9 boxes with space between them, with gutters between them. Think of this as being my sketchbook. They do not need to be super clean. Some students like to do this digitally and make it really clean. It really doesn't matter. The important thing is that you are being able to try out ideas quickly, like thumbnails. Now, this is a different way of thinking because we're thinking in terms of a narrative. And you have 3 components for a narrative. The first is you need a setting. So I'm going to do this, let's see, at a lower opacity. So my setting, I'm going to pick the Aesop's Canyon. You know, the one I created. And then you need to pick the thing that's going to transform. So maybe they're the same thing. Maybe the thing that's going to transform is Aesop's Canyon. But what causes that transformation? Is it going to be weather? Is it going to be an outside event? I'm going to have my dodo as the character, and it's going to be a creature that eats the setting. Because eating something is a way of transforming it, right? It changes beginning, middle to end. So I'm thinking I'm going to make my dodo really, really big. It's going to change the setting. The third thing you need is the illusion of time passing. So we have setting, we have character, the thing we experience the story through, and we have the illusion of time passing. And that here is going to be done through sequential panels. And when we cross over the little border here, which is why you need them, the gutter, this is time. So what's the first thing we see? We're going to see the canyon. Here's a little tree, a little river. So this is called an establishing shot. Establish the canyon. Next, I'm going to introduce the character. So INT, which is the dodo. And my dodo is going to be big. Eldritch horror monster big. Right? Into the canyon. He's going to walk on like a big T-Rex in Jurassic Park. So what's nice about storyboards is you can show arrows and directions, right? So he's going to kind of walk on from this side and come in. Really huge. So what is the action? Walks in. Then he is going to grab, we're to the middle of the animation now. He's going to grab the tree. Notice you do not need to draw well, and writing notes is really helpful. Yanks it out, and then he's going to eat the tree. He's going to kind of gobble it up, roots and all. I'm just making this up as I go, and it's loose and in pencil, and it can be adjusted and erased. But I'm thinking, does that start to transform the scene? Well, we have a landscape that starts with a tree, and then by this point, if the creature's gone, there's no tree. That's a transformation, right? But now, at the midpoint, I could just have him walk off, and then I could have that tree slowly grow back. But I want to usually go for broken animation, especially GIFs usually have a joke to them. So I'm going to have the creature then start eating the rocks. So I'm going to make his head a lot bigger. And he's going to eat foreground. And then he's going to eat middle ground. He's going to drink the river. This is all going to happen really fast. Kind of cartoon logic. It's all going to get slurped up. So I'll say slurps up, because that would be funny. Okay, then he's going to eat the background until everything is just kind of gone. And his mouth is just going to be like this, really big. And all this is going to be blank. All of it's going into his mouth. And then he leaves. So we'll just see the back of his head. And then